The 11th heat of Series 5 was a monumental episode in Robot Wars history, as it was the first time Razer finally made it past the heats. After 3 previous attempts that ended with disappointment and misery, the team finally got their shit together and got Razer working properly. This of course would lead to Razer not just winning a heat for once, but also finally winning the Grand Championship, which had always eluded it to this point. Obviously this had a lot of Razer fans tugging at their pepperami sticks like a milkmaid tugging on an udder, and thus they remember this heat very fondly. But was it actually a good heat? Well, it's time for me to take a look back and see. I'm Anderson9132, the Rewards Guru, and this is my review of Heat K of Series 5. So let's take a look at the roll call for this episode to start things off. Well, it's a promising start as we see the glorious Suicidal Tendencies returning, seeded 22nd. Whilst I admit the Series 4 version was better, I did always like the look of this version of the machine. It looked like a tank made of scrap by a bunch of rebels on some forgotten planet. Of course, we also had Razer. As much as I'm not a fan of the robot, I will always respect it and admit it was definitely a good machine, so no issues here so far. Then this heat goes down quicker than Julia Reed's career after Extreme 1 because we have some shit from this point onwards. Big Nipper was an awesome robot in Series 7 and the reboot, but I guess it all had to start somewhere. This was before the amazing grabbing lifter setup was perfected, so what we get here is a grey box made of what looks like tinfoil with some lifting prongs that wiggle back and forth. Yay! Another newcomer was Accident, a robot known for lasting less than a minute in 2 separate series combined. Destructor also returned in this heat, but I don't know, I always felt this axe up under theirs kinda ruined the look of the robot. Widow's Revenge is the spawn of hell itself, and you will never know just how irate this robot makes me, but that's a rant for another day. Let's just say this machine not only sucks, but it stopped other decent robots from being given a chance to compete in favour of entertainment. Rick is a miserable grey wedge with a low pressure flipper that just oozes bland and tasteless, and whilst I love Mr. Dig and Something, it was never going to be a main player here. Seriously, look at this field of robots. Are you really shocked that Razer won this heat? Because I'm not. Even Suicidal Tendencies is a perfect robot for Razer to fight with its flat top and exposed tracks. I'm not one to accuse robots of being given an easy ride, but fuck me, this is too hard to ignore. And yes, I'm fully aware that Chaos 2 and to a lesser extent Hypnodisc were given a free pass in their heats also. I'm just saying that they didn't even try to make it look less obvious here. Anyway, on to the battles. So our first battle is the tinfoil box versus the 2-time world champion. I can hardly guess who will win this one. Now you may think I'm making a stupid joke about Big Nipper being clad in tinfoil, but look at this shit! It warps and flexes under these attacks. Granted, tinfoil wouldn't hold up this well, but it's not far from it. Did they flatten out a bunch of Coke cans or something? The only thing of note in this fight is Big Nipper knocking off one of Razer's wings at the beginning of the battle. Other than that, it's your typical Razer affair. Pinch, let go, pinch, let go, blah blah blah. Shunt was the one who got the kill shot though, which I found hilarious. Razer always struggling to actually kill robots despite being called the most productive robot ever will always be funny to me. Still, Big Nipper didn't exactly lay down, so I can't be too harsh here. Also, credit to Ian Lewis for applauding Big Nipper here after the fight, and to the team in general for being good sports.
Big Nipper, what a robot.
Tough machine, wasn't it? Tough machine, give us a hard fight.
Hardly driven at all, but I think he drove brilliantly.
Yeah,
that's big praise for them. That's their first wars,
very well.
Excellent done. The first time of effort, brilliant.
I'll give it a 1 out of 5 simply because Big Nipper tried. Oh, for fuck's sake, Something versus Widow's Revenge. This battle is the epitome of nothing. Fuck all happens as both robots plod around and bump into each other until Something loses drive on one side due to a gear slipping, I think. Does Refbot count it out? Of course he fucking doesn't, thus leaving the battle to go the distance where Widow's Revenge, a joke entry, literally entered to be fed to Razer for shits and giggles, wins. Utter turds. 0 out of 5. Accident and Destructor will fight next. Jesus Christ, just trying to type out these names for this battle recap is going to kill me. I say they fight, they do some weird dance and then bump into each other before Accident dies by driving forward. We're talking Red Dragon from Series 3 levels here. Destructor literally won by doing nothing. Shunt then pits Accident to get this battle over and done with. Even Shunt pitting himself can't save this one. 0 out of 5. Good lord, please Suicidal Tendencies get us above a 0. Oh wait, it's fighting the wallpaper paste Rick. No friggin' chance of that then. A whole lot of nothing happens for a good portion of this battle as Suicidal Tendencies just chases Rick around. Rick then starts smoking as its spinner dies under zero pressure, giving Suicidal Tendencies the chance to attack and grab a hold of them. Sadly for everyone with eyes, Suicidal Tendencies' Crusher was more of a grabber, so we have to suffer watching it grab and let go of Rick without any meaningful attacks being made. Somehow they managed to make what Razer does even more boring. I don't get it because Suicidal Tendencies was far more entertaining in Extreme 1, so why it's so dull here is anyone's guess. I blame Rick personally. Stuff actually happened here, but it was so dull it doesn't really mean much. 0.5 out of 5. And then in one of the more infamous battles in the show's history, we see Razer defeat Widow's Revenge. Right, for the few who don't know, I'll explain. Widow's Revenge was entered by the Robot Widows, and their gimmick was that they were women who were tired of their men spending too much time in the shed with their robots, and they were also portrayed to be the wives of the Razer team. This, of course, was utter bollocks. Team Captain Jilly Blood was in fact Ian Lewis's fiancée and Vinnie Blood's sister. We now know that Ian and Jilly are married these days, making Ian and Vinnie brothers-in-law, which is an interesting reveal. It should also be noted that JP said Jilly Blood was Vinnie's lass, which isn't exactly couth now, is it? Fiona Mason and Jenny Smith, meanwhile, had no relation to the Razer team whatsoever. However, Jenny Smith fell ill before filming, so Vinnie Blood's actual girlfriend, Emily Cathcart, joined the team to make up the numbers. Man, that's confusing. Also, it should be noted that the team represented the breast cancer campaign charity through their run, so hats off to you ladies for that. Anyway, the battle goes about as well as you would expect. Nom nom nom, KO victory for Razer. And yes, it actually managed to kill its opponent this time. What makes this battle so well remembered, however, along with the Widow's antics of course, is the sheer destruction dealt to Widow's Revenge by Matilda. She full-on wrecked the Widow's machine before Razer pitted it and itself. Being honest, as an actual battle this was a bucket of cold piss, but the antics from the Robot Widows and Matilda's massacre of Widow's Revenge gave us more than enough spectacle to make it an entertaining battle. Next up, we should have Suicidal Tendencies vs Destructor Bubble, but Suicidal Tendencies had to pull out due to technical difficulties, meaning Rick got reinstated. Su-fucking-perb. In this battle, we get to see just how naff Rick's flipper is as it barely lifts Destructor Bubble. Look at this shit! But that lift is somehow enough to kill Destructor Bubble as it doesn't move an inch again after that. I'm not joking here. Shunt gets bored, obviously, and attacks Destructor Bubble and thus gets red carded. Fuck you, Refbot, what was he supposed to do, just sit there and watch this dismal battle play out? Refbot then tries to count out Destructor Bubble, but Rick, sensing the audience will die of boredom, pits it before the count can be finished. At least it was short. 0 out of 5. Can this heat be salvaged by the heat final? Ha! Can it bollocks. Razer wins via KO, the end. Even as far as Razer battles go, this fight is dull as fuck. Razer barely did anything to Rick, only piercing a tiny hole into its wedge. That's it, that's all it took for Razer to win this one. Even Razer fans would feel ripped off here. It's almost as if they just couldn't be bothered fighting the dull as dishwater Rick, so decided to hold back. At least Rick looked good getting yeeted across the arena, I guess. Look, even Sir Kidalot is like, fuck that mate, I can't bother with this fucking thing. Thankfully, Razer tried to bite Sir Kidalot on the arse, causing Sir Kidalot to pit it in revenge. At least it was something, I guess, but not enough to save this one. 0 out of 5. Fuck this heat. I'm sorry people, but there is no defending this heat. Yeah, fine, it's a big moment in Razer's timeline, but it was essentially fed its heat win on the silver spoon here. The rest of this heat was full of awful battles, random breakdowns, boring machines, and disappointing performances. This heat has a whopping 4 0 out of 5 ratings, and whilst it has some iconic moments and spectacle, it's nowhere near enough to save this utter shit show. 0.5 out of 10 for easily the worst episode of Series 5 and one of the worst episodes ever. Before I get into the merits, I would just like to explain that I've decided to change them a little bit. From this point onwards, they are as follows. The MVB Award, awarded to the most valuable bot of the episode. This isn't essentially the best robot of the episode, but for the robots that I found most entertaining or enjoyable. The Charged Lipo Award, meanwhile, goes to the best moment of the episode, whilst the Rusty Spanner goes to the worst moment of the episode. And the Golden Mike goes to the best JP line of the episode also. With that being said, on to the merits. The MVB award goes to Matilda. Yeah, it's a cop-out, but honestly, what competitor robot deserves it? At least Matilda gave us some entertainment. The Charged Lipo for the best moment of the episode goes to Matilda absolutely ass-blasting Widow's Revenge. I could honestly rewatch this on repeat for hours. The rusty spanner for worst moment of the heat was hard because there were so many shit moments in this episode that it's not even funny, but nothing is worse than a good robot and a seedy robot no less having to pull out like your dad should have. So Suicidal Tendencies having to forfeit takes it. And the golden mine for best JP quote goes to this wonderful reaction to the Robot Widow's signs.
Oh, ball boy, weasel and protector features!
And that's it for this review and this video. Do you agree with me or do you think I'm a square rolling pin? What did you think of Heat KO Series 5? Let me know in the comments below. I'm Anson913, the Robot Wars Guru, and I'll see you next time.